Okay, we are about to okay. Well, welcome people. Just setting up here. I could see a number of people have logged in already. We will be shooting off at 8:30. Bear with me. Alrighty, let's see. Google Hangouts live event. I want to open this. Okay. Right, what's going on here? Let's just get this all ready. How to avoid falling in love with a jerk. Okay, hello everybody. This is Hilton Samuel, and tonight we are going to be talking about how to avoid falling in love with a jerk. In fact, I sent out a message which indicated that we are going to be talking about how to avoid falling in love or marrying jerks or jerkettes or idiots. Now, before I go on, let's just do a bit of just trying to connect here, making sure that I'm coming through to everyone. Okay, let's see if we press play. Great. We are live and well and kicking. If you are there, please say yes in the chat box below. Great. We are live and well and kicking. If you are there, please say yes in the chat box below. Let's bear with me. Let's just do a bit of just trying to connect, making sure that I'm coming through to everyone. Okay, let's see. Let's play. Great. We are live and well and kicking. If you are there, please say yes in the chat box below. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Hilton Samuel, and we want to welcome you to the Christian Dating series. We are now on our second topic. And if you are there with listening, wherever you are, in the north and the south, in the east or the west, central, we are delighted to have you. Today, we are looking at a very, very powerful topic: how to avoid marrying a jerk. Before I get some feedback, I actually have a second computer monitoring what's going on to ascertain that I am piping out through YouTube via the channels up to wherever you are. So let me just reduce the sound that is coming off this so that we don't have any feedback. We should really have with us a co-host, someone who would have joined with us sometime soon. That would be none other than Ebony Empress, aka Sandra Rodney. Unfortunately, I am not seeing her, so I'm going to be rolling with what we're going to be discussing this evening. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat box. I see there are a number of people in on the session. Corinne, how are you? Sierra, I'm not too sure if I pronounce your name correctly, but if you are there, thank you for coming in. And if there is anyone else who's out there listening, please feel welcome. Please feel free to chat, ask questions, and so that we have a dynamic interaction. Oh, here is my co-host. She's calling in on the phone. Give me a minute while I try to connect with her. Hi, Sandra, we're live and direct. I did send you a link. You know what? You should be looking for a link coming from God Wants You Married. I think last time we didn't let you know that. So if you haven't seen that, let me send it to you again. Okay, now, Ebony and Ivory. I'm, I'm trying to non-existent Ebony Empress, non-existent UK. Yeah, at Gmail. Your picture comes up. Gmail.com. Okay. Yeah, I'm live. I'm actually talking to you, and we are live. Sandra Rodney, Ebony Empress, at gmail.com. I'm clicking on it. I'm sending you the link. If not, I might. Okay, so I'm going to invite you. It's coming from God Wants You Married. So let me just click invite here. And if that doesn't work, I'll have to copy it and send. Okay. Okay. Good. Let's get it up and running, my dear. Talk to you in a minute. Okay, cheers. Okay, bye. Okay. Right. Let's close. All right. Ebony is going to be here with us in a minute. But while she's coming on, can I just go through some housekeeping? Let me just simply go through some housekeeping. If you can share this link with anyone that you think would benefit from the topic tonight, please feel free to do so on Twitter, on Facebook, and any of the other social media sites that you are on. Just to remind you, this is a series called the Christian Dating Series, and we're looking at many different topics. We started out with 7 powerful ways to meet great Christian men or women, or how to attract in your life the one that God has for you. How would you like to attract the one that God has for you? In fact, we have discussed that last week, and tonight we'll be looking at how to avoid falling in love or marrying, oh God forbid, marrying a jerk or jerkette. And next week, we're going to be looking at biblical dating in a modern world. You know, what's going to be the future of Christian dating. And the following week, you will love this. You will love this. Hold on. Andrina is saying that she can't log on to the chat. Let me just see if I could just send her a link. I might just have to go on the fly. Let me just send her. Bear with me while I try to get someone who has a problem getting on the chats. All right, welcome, Kerry. Harris. Can't log names into page. I'm not sure what that is. That's Loris. And Nikki is coming in. And we just have some startup challenges. Okay, Nikki, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, well, those of you who are on, I was just going through the different topics that I will be dealing with. For next week will be how to date as a Christian, biblical dating in a modern world, biblical versus modern dating. How do you go about doing that? The following week, I think you're going to love this topic. A lot of people love this topic. It's called Holy and Horny. Holy and Horny. What do you do as a Christian single with your sexual desires? It's not a topic that we hear very often from the pulpit. And Lakeisha, we're happy to have you. Welcome. And the following week, we'll be looking at what men really, no, actually, I'm skipping one. Dating myths that might be keeping you single. Dating myths that might be keeping you single. And what men really want from Christian women and what Christian women are looking for in men. I am not too sure why my speaker isn't working. Let me just check to see that.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Oh, fine. Welcome.
Yes.
We have quite a few people in our guest room. I wasn't sure. I was just going through the topics that we are going to be doing in the series. And the final topic, believe you me, that there are many Christians who tell me that they have been praying for years and years and years and years, but they may be praying amiss. And I'm going to talk about 8 ways to pray for your love life or the lack of it. And just to say, for housekeeping, turn off any distractions. I know many of you women can multitask. You can be on Twitter and all these other things, but let's focus. Turn off your Facebook, everything, and let's just focus. If you have any questions, put it in the chat box. I won't be directly chatting, but I can see the questions and respond to them. We're going to kick off with tonight's topic: how to avoid falling in love with a jerkette, or an idiot. Have you ever been, and welcome, Sandra, it's good to have you.
Hey, hi Hilton.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good, great
I'm
having
trying to multitask.
I'm warning people not to multitask. Not to multitask.
I
Now,
know, I know, but I'm trying to help Drina, who's on somewhere, and she just messaged me to say she couldn't get in, so
okay.
to the show.
Well,
I'm not sure if it,
I've sent her a link,
all right, I'm
and
gonna send her another link.
okay, if she could get in on the actual Google Hangouts. Well, if she
Yeah, let me
can,
see if I can
that
get
would be
her.
good. If not, that's fine. She could chat with us. Oh, yes, she says, in now, everybody. Thanks, Drina. Andrina, it's good to have you. I think we're ready to kick off with the real stuff. So,
Okay.
I have a question. Has anyone on this call ever been involved with someone who's an absolute jerk?
Oh
Has
yeah.
anyone ever had an experience with a jerk or jerkette? Because they come in all forms. If you are, put yes in the chat box. If not, do you know someone who has had their lives absolutely turned upside down, inside out by a real idiot or a jerk? If so, put yes in the chat box. If not, well, lucky you. You have been blessed by God, and not to have in any way, shape, or form to be involved or seen anyone who has been involved with a jerk. But I have to tell you that I assume that all of us have at some point in time said Sierra. Well, probably, but some people are blessed not to have been involved with a jerk. But maybe we could ask the question first: who is a jerk? But I have been involved with a jerkette, and unfortunately, you can't tell them by the way they look. You can't tell them by the way they dress. You can't actually tell them even by their education or the letters behind their name. You can't tell simply by them being in church. You can't sit down, you can't go to church, sit down and look and say, well, that person is a jerkette, or that person is an idiot, that person would mess up my life. No, none of these will do. Because I remember, and I'm telling you these guys, I'm telling you, I'm trusting you, I'm telling you a story that I haven't really repeated to many people because I'm embarrassed about it. Because a person like me should never have gotten involved with someone. And this was way before I got married. And maybe I was naive at that time. And it was a beautiful girl. She could be a poster girl, actually. She could be one of those girls who walk off the pages of a magazine. Beautiful. And the thing about these people is that they're so attractive, and they win you in more ways than one. But she turned out to be a person of my worst nightmare. And I'll give you just a couple of examples of what happened. She had a baby then. She used to turn up at my flat 3, 4 o'clock in the morning with this baby and ring the bell. And when I look out, who's ringing my bell at that time? It was her. And I didn't want to say no because there was that baby outside that time of morning in the winter. But she gave me no end of grief, no end of grief. One time she came to my work. Are you there, Sandra? I don't know. I must have lost Sandra.
Yes, I'm actually listening.
Oh, okay. One time she came to my workplace, and I looked out and saw her, and I thought, oh no. Anyway, she wouldn't leave. So eventually I came out, and I called the pastor, and the pastor came, and she had some words with the pastor. She told the pastor off, actually. And I said I wasn't going to be dealing with her. I'm going to go my merry way. And the girl fell down on the ground. I just literally collapsed. So we had to call the ambulance. The ambulance came, took her away. And guess what? Her child was there too. But the ambulance people didn't take the child with them. The child was left with me. I'm thinking, oh no,
wow.
what a... So I took the child. I found the hospital, and I stayed there until nearly 2. You know what hospital waits are like. Nearly 2 in the morning. I had to take her home. It was just a bit of a drama. A couple months or maybe a year or two on, you know what she admitted to me? It was all a stage show. She staged it.
Oh no.
She staged the whole thing. So a jerk, eventually, it turned out really, really messy. I had to try and not get her to... Police had to be involved, unfortunately. So jerks, who is a jerk and what is a jerk? Can anybody just through, just a wild guess, say, what do you think a jerk is by definition? Who do you think a jerk is? Anybody in the chat room? Sandra, are you there?
Well,
have I lost you? I'm not even seeing. Oh,
I'm here a little bit on a delay.
Yeah, there is some sort of delay here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, good.
What I wanted to say was that Jerkette, or whatever you want to call them, or jerks, I think are just people really who may not be aligned to you. So there's no alignment, and you probably go ahead on a whim of, I like this person.
Okay, I think I've lost.
Almost codependent. Can you still hear me, or is it slow?
It's really slow. I think there's a delay. There is some sort of choppy kind of response.
Okay, I'm gonna clock off and come back on again.
Okay, fine. That's great. Let's see if we could get a more direct streaming live broadcast from Sandra. I think, okay, Sierra, am I pronouncing your, oh, actually, it's Kerry. Kerry says, a jerk is a person who has no values and principles, a user. And I agree with you, Kerry. I absolutely agree with you. In fact, what I have here is that a jerk is a person, or, you know, and that person could be a colleague, it could be someone in the church, it could be someone that you know, it could be someone at work, it could be, but that person has inappropriate behavior. Sometimes the behavior is outrageous, the behavior is negative. It has a negative impact on you, and they just simply cause no end of problems. They cause no end of problems. They could be female, they could be male, they could be young, they could be old, they could be the brethren in the church, God forbid. Jerkdom knows no bound. And I think I'm just going to say to you that sometimes you can't easily recognize them, but I'm going to give you about 3 to 5 different ways of how you can easily recognize who a jerkette might be. And one of the first thing I want to say, although you're not going, you won't necessarily know who he or she is when you meet them, is that person's relationship history, particularly that we're talking about romantic relationship and Christian relationship. It is absolutely vital that you become in some way privilege or privy to the person's relationship history, because they would leave in their wake a series of broken hearts. So that's one way. Check their relationship history. Another thing that is vitally important, and I'm going to expand and expound a little bit more on it, is a person's family history. Are you hearing me? Now, years ago, we used to believe in looking at people's family history. Today, some people don't believe in it. They believe it's absolutely crap. We just take a person as he or she is at the point where we meet them. However, may I suggest that the person and people we are have been greatly shaped by the environment in which we were nurtured and cared for. And that family history would have a significant impact on how the person relate to other people, because it is in that environment we get to understand or even know how to build relationship the way our parents, or if we didn't have two parents in the house, how significant people respond is the way we will respond when we eventually have relationships of our own, and the way we would parent when we become parents. Here is another thing that we can use to tell a jerk or jerkette, is what people are saying about them. Sandra, are you back? Are you there, Sandra? She isn't in yet.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear.
Is that better than last time?
That is absolutely better. That is almost perfect. Have you been hearing what I just
I'm doing it on my phone, which is, I think, a little bit better.
Okay. Have you heard the couple of things that I've narrated about how to recognize jerks or jerkettes? Or
no,
idiots?
You probably need to say that again, Hilton, because I wasn't able to catch that bit. But give me a couple of seconds before you actually say it, because I'm gonna change my headphones.
All right, no problem. Just let me know when you're ready for me to repeat that. But what? Okay, we're just waiting for Sandra as she changed her headset. I forgot I was on camera. I've been doing all kind of. Okay, yeah, Sandra.
All right, got the headphones in now.
Are you ready for me to roll?
Yes, I'm ready.
Right. Well, a couple of things that I've been saying, that you can't recognize a jerk or a jerkette by just simply looking at them or the way they dress. And I started to give a lot of different ways and means of evaluating, catching on, or sussing out people who might be jerks or jerkettes. And one of the first things I mentioned is the person's relationship history. Usually, jerks or jerkettes leave in their history a wake of broken hearts. And sometimes, if you become privy to um, what happened in the last couple of relationships, if you ask them, well, what happened in your last relationships and your last couple of relationships, or the last two or three, they may tell you, well, the other person, they they they're just idiots. And if you dig deeper, you will find out that they blame the other person a lot, and that is natural. That is, however, if you ask people who know about the relationships, you may get cues that would indicate that this person may be sorry, on a trail of breaking people's hearts. Because the way to predict future behavior is to look at recent relevant behavior. Did you hear that?
Yes, I heard
Yeah.
that.
And the other thing that I said, Sandra, is about family history. Nowadays, a lot of people seem to discount it and not even bother about it. But I mentioned that the
Yeah,
way who we are today is largely shaped and determined by the environment in which we were nurtured and cared for. And we would bring that
agreed.
into our relationship. So if you find out how did this person grow up, what kind of environment did he grow up, did he or she grew up in a nurturing environment, was he loved, or if she loved, or was there a lot of aggression, did the person learn empathy, do they have a conscience by virtue of the fact of how they were treated? Be it known, my brothers and sisters, eventually that person would display the very same traits and characteristics that he or she witnessed while they were growing up. And then I spoke about the person's reputation. What are people saying
Okay.
about them? I actually say that um, what a person says about himself. Let me repeat that again. A person shouldn't
Okay.
be the only source of information about himself or herself. A person
Okay.
should never be the only source of information about himself or herself. What do people say about this person? Sometimes when we fall in love, we tend to see a glorified image of the person. We tend to avoid seeing the parts or recognizing the parts or even being aware of some parts of that person that we should be aware of. However, if people are saying, if that person is not a good person to be around, that person, you need to listen. Sometimes if it's just one or two, you may discount it. But if many people are indicating that that person may have some characteristic flaws, may have anger management issues, I think you'd better listen. And another point I want to share, Sandra, is something that many people would tell you after the mess hits the fan is something was off. I tend to ask people, what is your gut feeling saying? Because deep within us, especially women seem to be a little bit more in tune with this. Their intuition would tell them, look, something is off, something is wrong. Sometimes you can't actually put your hand on it, you can't put your thumb on it, but you have the sense that this person, there is something not right with this person. But because of the emotions of love, a lot of people override the gut feeling. They override what their subconscious mind might be telling them, and they go ahead to their own, what do you call it, damnation. there.
Okay.
Okay. And finally, two more things I want to say that you could use is the Holy Spirit. The Bible says that the Spirit will guide us into all truth. I have a friend of mine, and I like telling this story. Her name is Ajuma. You might know her, Sandra.
Okay.
And Jackie, that's her other name. And
Oh,
she
okay.
told me a
Yes.
story. Yes, she told me a story that is very interesting. She got introduced by her sister to a guy who works at the sister's workplace. And the guy was just, he was the person. He ticked all the boxes. He was saying all the right things until one night she got a dream. Well, she was praying all along, and she got a dream. And in the dream, she she for some reason or the other saw somebody else, another female, and children. And she was wondering what that dream meant. And she asked him, you know, "Oh, are you married? Are you involved with someone? Do you have children?" No, 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 no. He swore to high heavens that he wasn't married and he didn't have children. But she got a similar dream again the next night. And she decided, well, she's not going to go ahead with the relationship because the impressions of the dream were so strong that she said, no, something is wrong, something is off. The spirit is trying to tell me something. And she ended the relationship, only to find out months later that indeed the guy was married with several children. The guy was married
Wow.
with several children. And so I am
Wow.
saying that the spirit guided her. So many of us would need not to do our own homework by checking out the family history, checking out the relationship history, checking out what people are saying, checking out your gut feelings, but more so, letting the spirit lead.
I
And
agree.
and finally, there's one other thing I want to put inside here, Sandra, and then I'm going to let you give some commentaries if you have any. Um,
Okay.
how is the person impacting you? In other words, is this person good for you? Is this person good for you? Is this person helping you? Is this person making you, building your esteem, building your spirituality, building even if you have a business, building your career or education? Is this person ennobling you? I like that term, ennobling you. It has a ring of making you better, royal. Is this person ennobling? And what impact is this person having on you? In other words, associating with this person, is that building you or is that degrading you? And if you go through these, you will be able to suss, you'll be able to find out, you'll be able to discover whether or not someone who is trying to knock at your heart's door is a jerk or a jerkette.
A jacket.
Yes. Now, if you have any commentaries, I would welcome your comments. And then I'm going to go on with the problems of having jerks in your life and why people get involved with jerks. Sandra,
Do you want my comments right now?
yes,
I can give.
if you have, that would be good.
Okay, so here's my view. Here's the thing. I actually believe that as the Holy Spirit does speak to you, the Holy Spirit has a way of letting you know what's going on. But I think your relationship and your connection to that higher being has to be even stronger than it would in normal terms when you're in a relationship, because I think when you think you're in a relationship or you are in relationship, and I say think you are because sometimes we don't have that agreement with the other person, but we're in a belief that because we're spending a lot of time with someone, their relationship is actually in progress. So I say be sure that's where you are. But anyway, does it matter so much? If you really, really do believe it's happening, well, maybe something is happening, even if it's only in your mind. But I say this because, I say this because I think people get a little crazy sometimes when they're in a relationship or they're dating. And it's happened to me too. So I'm going to admit it, own it, that, you sometimes your view or your vision of life gets a little bit screwed because emotionally, once you start to invest with someone, I think that vulnerability stage comes, and you sometimes your vision gets a little bit clouded around that person, and that's why it's good not to kind of understand it. It's about relying not on your own understanding of things, and I think that may be what it's alluding to. It's actually saying get somebody else in the pit that you say back, and I say this to people who I teach every day: step back, breathe, and think before you make the next move when you're trying to ward off a potential conflict, or you're trying to think about the risks that you're exposing yourself to. And so I think it's a similar thing in relationships. It's almost a spiritual standing back and letting God step in that middle and make and help you to see what you need to see. And I think it works. I had that experience myself where, I was dating someone for a little while, and, I thought this person was something they weren't. And I thought actually available and he wasn't. And I remember at the time people saying to me, oh yeah, everything seems, he's absolutely perfect. Everything seems really good, go for it. And, he wasn't available. He really wasn't available. And you have to be able to step back from your emotions and what's going on in your head to really see that. But I remember having the experience of me going to an event and meeting someone. They said to me, I seen something in, and I didn't really want to listen to it because at the time I was like, what really, what is that? Where is
Oh, Sandra, have we lost you? Okay, go on. It's getting a little
it? No,
choppy again, Sandra.
within a couple of days I knew the truth. And I think you got to be prepared to, really not search, but be open to the truth when it comes to you, because especially when your heart's in it and what you see you like, it's
Yeah.
hard. That's hard because you've seen it and you go, yeah, ooh, he ticks all the boxes. Oh, my heart is fluttering for this. And hey, you got to step away from the heart and kind of let the head and that spiritual communication with your with your conscience have a chat with you and tell you really what's going on, and really be able to accept that and move on. Because I think the problem sometimes is we get told the answer, you when you sit down and you think about it, all the red flags are there, but
Yep.
because you like what you see, it's hard. Yeah. And I think that's a challenge for singles. And I always say to women, okay, and I'd love to do a show one day about this, but I love to say to women, go out and date, man. Go out and date and see people, because when you are so hungry, right, any food you get will feed you. Any food you get will make you feel full. No,
Well, not
seriously.
only that, any food you get will taste
Looks
good.
like good. It looks good. It
Yes.
tastes good because you ain't had no food. When did you last have food? When did you last
Oh,
see another human being
when
socially?
you're hungry, there's nothing more appetizing than dry bread.
Absolutely. Right? And you see the dry bread and someone will say, it's dry bread. You go, no, that's, that's the best thing. Because you know what? Hey, you are not out there seeing what's available and actually having lots of experiences. And I don't mean sexual experiences, I mean conversations with guys, going out socially, mixing, hearing what they've got to say, being, working out how you feel and what you're looking for. Because you know what, then you fall for anything, you know.
True. That
So
is so true.
I think you gotta be out there. You've got to be actively engaged in the process. I'm not saying you've got to go searching for that guy, but you've got to be actively engaged in the process of dating before you make your final choice. Else, you know what? Sometimes you can end up making a choice which is an emotional choice, and it isn't really about what God wants or what works for you on an economic, social, physical, spiritual level. It is something maybe that you have created in your mind, and we do that.
You know what? I tell people, Sandra, that, feel with your heart, but act with your head. Feel
Mm,
with your heart, but act with your head. It may not be as easy. It's probably easier said than done. It's probably easier said than done.
yes.
However, we need to be able to rise above the emotions of the heart, because if we don't, our hearts could lead us down a bumpy, rocky road to hell. Well, romantic hell. That's what I'm talking about. Which brings me nicely to some of the problems that occur when we have jerks in our lives and why people get involved with jerks. You and I may think when we're not involved that it's really, really stupid that someone who is so intelligent, maybe so educated, so, experienced, go away and have almost throw their lives away. Let's think of, what's his name? Bill Clinton. Remember the time?
Mm,
This is the president of the United States, one of the most powerful men in the world. And he risked it all. He risked it all just simply to have a fling with someone. The point I'm making that it can happen. It can happen. It happened to preachers. He has happened to priests. He happens to people who will least expect it to happen to. It can
yeah.
happen to you. It happened to Solomon. Solomon is reputed to be the wisest guy in the world, and he got his life absolutely messed up, twisted, um, out of you can't believe that this man who is supposed to be so wise could be so dumb and foolish. He got carried away by having the wrong women in his life. Think of Samson. Sometimes jerks, they waste our time. And time is such a precious thing. This person may just waste years of your life, years that you could never get back. There are jerks who waste your money. I remember this girl fell in love with this guy, and everybody knew that he was no good. He was up to no good. Everybody except her. He got her to take out a car for him, take out a loan for the car. He borrowed hundreds, if not thousands of pounds from her. And eventually what? He dumped her. Just the other day, I was reading of this young lady who, she was young and she just fell in love with this guy. But the guy was just stringing her along. And unfortunately, she got cancer. She got cancer. And
Mm,
the guy, when he heard, she was at the hospital, she called him and told him the news. Obviously, it's a time when someone needs a lot of support. This is a young person in her 20s. The doctor has just relayed to her this awful news, one of the worst types of cancer, apparently she had. And the guy hung up the phone and ended the relationship then, and he never even went to see her.
Oh,
And
wow.
which brings me to another point about jerks. They have no conscience. They have no conscience. So one of the things you need to recognize when you're dealing with anyone is to check to see whether or not their conscience is alive, whether or
Oh,
not they have
wow.
empathy, whether or not they um, can see your hurt and empathize with your hurt and relate, sympathize and relate to your hurt, to support you. And sometimes jerks could damage your reputation. You can't never get that back. I remember this pastor, long ago. What's his name? I can't even remember his name. And he was one of those tele-evangelists, and he got caught with a prostitute. Got caught with a
Mm-hmm.
prostitute, damaged his entire career altogether. So you damage your reputation and can damage your heart. Have you ever had your heart broken? A
Yes.
heartbreak. Well, that was a resounding yes. you know, the reason why they call it heartbreak, literally, it tears your heart to threads. And believe you me, Sandra, they say that when you hurt emotionally, the same area of your brain that responds to physical hurt is activated. So the brain registers emotional hurt just as literal as it does physical hurt. That's why we call it a heartbreak. That's why we call it a
Mm.
heartbreak. It could damage your esteem, your confidence, but more so though, you have to be very careful. Being in a relationship with a jerk could harm you. It can be fatal. And I don't like telling this story, but I want to tell you guys this story because it's a personal story. Years ago, early in about 2001 or so, 2001, 2002, or I can't even remember the date. We got the call that my niece, who was in the first flush of womanhood around 24, died. No, she didn't die at the age of in a car accident or heart attack, or you could sorry, you could fully probably cope with that, but her boyfriend, I'm choked up now, of 4 years with whom she had a child, killed her,
Oh, wow.
literally killed her,
That's
cut
sad.
her throat. That is very sad. So being involved with a jerk is not something to muck about with. Obviously, if you lose your time, if you spent wasted years with this person, if you lost money, if you lose prospects in life, you damage your reputation, all of these you could probably recover from. But when you're physically damaged or when you're fatally damaged, it takes a serious toll. It takes a
Yeah.
serious toll. You know, um, why do people get involved with jerks? We spoke about some.
Because
Yeah, go on.
I just remember talking to a guy this week that I went on a date with, who was saying to me that, you know, the interest, we're talking about good guys, bad guys, and he said, well, good guys are good guys, but they're boring. That's the problem. Good guys are boring.
Yes,
And
the
he said,
jerks
listen,
are fun.
and the jerks are fun, even though they're and they'll probably take your life and, and they'll do all sorts, they're interesting sometimes. And if on the wild side, you get a chance to see how the wild side of life operates when you're with someone who really doesn't care and for rules and, you know, who seems to be going in a direction that sometimes you don't even know if it is the right direction, but it's a strong pull that suggests they understand what they're doing. And, you know, we're always looking for leadership as women.
That's
We're looking
true.
for people who will, you know, give you that air of security. And sometimes, unfortunately, they're the guys that make you feel that way. You know, it's like yesterday talking to one of my girlfriends, she was like, I'm with a guy and he's so protective and he looks out for me so much. But, you know, it's all a bit overwhelming at the end of the day. And it can also feel like controlling. And I had to go like, so you know, I reflected on it when I was on the way home and I was like, do you hear all the things that you're saying? Because what you're
Mm.
saying is that this isn't the right person for me, but you're not owning it. And
Wow.
maybe you feel like you're there because I don't have a choice, or I don't want to give myself a choice because I'd rather be there than be alone in my bed. Okay? Um,
Hmm.
and that sometimes is the choice that women or men even are making. You know, I don't want to be alone means I will settle for something that I know doesn't answer the questions or isn't what I want or really need, but it's what I need in the sense that I need that companionship. And what's the price of the companionship? The price may be to be with someone that isn't right for me, but, you know, allows me to feel like I am somebody and I'm with somebody. You know, we sometimes want that to say, hey, I've got a boyfriend or I'm in a relationship. You know,
True.
that's the world we're in. People want the titles. And you see it when you see people on Facebook, you know, I've been married for 20 years. Who knows what that marriage is like? Who knows?
Nobody.
Okay.
No.
And I'm not saying it's bad, but people put it out there and it makes people who aren't in those boxes of marriage, of relationship, crave for something. And then some people get to that point where they will have it at any cost. And
Oh
that's
yes.
sad.
That
Yeah.
is sad. I would like to expand on this. And if you're there and you're listening, I want to have some interaction from the listeners. Do you have any questions, any comments? First of all, if you're there, you're listening, say, put a one in the chat box. I just need to see those of you who are on the site to interact with us and let us know some of your feelings about what we're talking about, some of your commentaries, some of your opinions. Even if you disagree, we are happy to take those disagreements on board. Um, yeah, but Sandra, I want to say too that, look, some of us literally attract jerks in our lives. And there are some people who have what is known as yes, uh, Kerry, Drina, a number of folks are still there, but we still would like to hear what you have to say, guys or girls. We will be delighted to. Okay, yes, oh, Lois is there. Just chime in and just let us know that you're engaging in the conversation. You know, there are people who don't know anything else but drama in their lives. That's how they grew up, and they attract people with drama. And not that they like it, but that's all they know. I know of one girl. She got one of the best guys that you could possibly have. He was a Christian. He was a hard worker. He was a godly guy with principles. He had everything. And do you know that this girl left that guy and took up what we would call a ragamuffin? Yeah, she took up someone in her life that was absolutely, we couldn't believe. But later, what I got to understand and what I got to realize that sometimes many people are not comfortable with true love because they have never experienced it. They may have experienced horrors in their childhood when they're growing up, and that's what they know. They may have experienced seeing their dad or mom being abused or harassed, and subconsciously that's what they know, and that's what that they are attracted to, and everything else feels foreign. Some people may not have been nurtured properly, so there is a missing link. You spoke about people who are starving for love, starving for emotions, starving for comfort, starving just for other people to validate them. And that's simply because they haven't had that when they were young. And now they are in their adulthood, they're still seeking and searching for that, even though they may not be consciously thinking about it like you and I are speaking about it now. They are lured into relationships that may be harmful to them, but yet gives them this kind of security that you mentioned, this kind of comfort, this kind of emotional high, but yet it can be damaging to them on a totally different level. So, while it can be addictive too, and there are people who literally could control you. They prey on your insecurities. They suss that even though you're okay in other areas, there's this one area in your emotional life that you're insecure, and they simply move in and abuse the situation and take advantage of it. So before we go on, and please stay with us because we have a lot more to tell you. We have a lot more to share with you. We're going to tell you about 5 different ways to avoid a person who can be jerkish, to avoid having jerkdom in your life, if that's a word. I just made that up, by the way. Just stay with us. Right now, I want to tell you about a couple of things that are coming up. Next week, of course, we're going to be speaking about how to date biblically in a modern world. Literally, how to go about finding the love of your life in a biblical way, even though it seems as though that there are no good men left or there are no good women left. That's all a lie. That's all a lie. So we will talk about that next week. Fine. Also coming up, those of you who are in the Birmingham area up north, we are going to be having on the 28th. I think it's the 28th. Gina, correct me if I'm wrong. In fact, if you could type the address there in the chat box, Andrina, we are going to be having a
tonight,
physical. Yep.
I think you should say it again because the part of the broadcast was blocked out.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
sorry. Let me just see what's saying. It's good to have to reference the person who we want to engage in a relationship, bringing the foundation. Okay, let me just talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the chat room. Kerry says it's good to have a reference from the person you want to engage in a relationship. Upbringing set the foundation for your journey in your marriage. Hey, I like that. I was going to do a little bit of advertisement here, but while I'm at it, I'm reaching out to Drina. Drina, would you be happy to type in the details of where we're going to be having the seminar, the workshop on the 28th of February, and I'll read it all out. But while she's doing that, I'd like to speak to what said, that if most of us work and most of us would have applied for jobs from time to time, and one of the things that the job process has is that you must give a reference. In fact, many of them ask for two references, and some from the most recent work that you've done. And do you know that they actually follow up the reference? And we need to also do this, you know. We need to also do this. I remember a couple of people who fell in love with people from other countries, only to find out that these people had their families there already. So we need references. By the way, talking about let's just give a little bit of a station break here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be having a seminar, not just a webinar, a physical seminar where we will be together with you, and we will talk about how to meet, date, and marry. How to meet, date, and marry. Practical guidelines of how to do that. This is going to be on the 28th of March, Bank Holiday Monday, Easter Monday, 10 till 4. Practical ways to meet your future spouse. Lunch will be provided, so don't you worry. Uh, um, and you can get in touch with Andrina and myself. If Andrina, if you could type in their contact details, then that would also be good. Her email here is info@divineintroductions.co.uk. Okay. And there is the lovely Andrina, if you could see her on um, the site. Okay, thank you. Andrina's number is 077 077 464 23535. 07746 423 535. Okay, thank you, Andrina. And we will be at the Church of God of Prophecy, that's down in Alberdine Street, Winson Green, and that's in Birmingham, B187DL. So we are looking forward to seeing you. Please, please come down if you're in that area, and we will meet together. All right. Now let's just read a couple of the other comments in the chat room. How do you get information from family and friends? Oh, that's a very good question. How do we get information, family and friends? You know, it's actually quite easy. From yeah, you just ask. It's just ask. And sometimes being in conversation with people, they tell you a lot of things that you probably sometimes didn't even ask for. Have you ever had a situation where somebody piped up and gave you a bit of information that you never even dreamt of asking, but it was so vital, so necessary, and it blew the lid on someone else who might have been probably covering up and cheating on you? So liars are always found out. Liars are always found out. So just have a conversation, ask, and you will get the information. And if one person doesn't tell you, go on.
I think the person may be talking about being introduced by family members and or friends, and probably a good place to do that is at an event. So I know that one of my friends, she got introduced to my cousin when she came to my mum and dad's anniversary. So it was a nice safe space. They got a chance to talk, and we all joined in and had a laugh about it. But she left with a date, right? With my cousin, and so it works. And then you may know somebody as well who you know them socially, and that person is a good guy or a good woman, and you're not interested, but that person is a good person. That would be the person when you come across some good Christian ladies or men that you say, hey, I know this person, would you be interested in speaking to this person? And then just pray for them and leave it to to where it goes, and allow them to decide what they want to do. But at least you could be that source of introduction, that kind of agent person who's I'm always on the lookout for good people. So if I see a good woman um, or a good man and I think, yeah, I know someone who might fit that, I would introduce them to one of my girlfriends or somebody else that I know who I know is looking for that kind of person in that age group, and hope that it works out. So I think, there's so many people in the world, and sometimes the good people we don't ever get to see. But there's people out there who may have even dated that person years and years ago. It's never ever gonna happen. We're never ever gonna get together. That is not a possibility. And yet, that may be a good person for someone else. Why would you be selfish? Why not kind of go, right, okay, there's this guy or this woman, who's available. People find it hard. Online dating is a source of risk and stress, right? So, why not introduce somebody to somebody that you think is a decent person and see where it goes? I think if more people did that, more people would get hooked up. And when you have your family events, invite singles along if there are singles, and on both sides, bring them along and leave them to just see what they do, because who knows, that could be a future marriage.
But you know what? I totally, absolutely agree with what you're saying. But before we move on with that point, I'm going to share something with you, and you guys are going to be happy for this. I think Kerry says something that is quite interesting about getting to know someone who is not from your immediate geographical area. She says it's worth checking them out. Buy an air ticket. It's worth the investment because your life here is at stake. I recommend to people, if you meet someone from another country, before you get seriously involved in terms of committing to a marriage, you should go and visit that country. You should go and visit the person's family. You should go and visit the person's village. You should go and see where they grew up, because you may be shocked that that person may have values. They may, in that culture, there may be values, there may be issues, there may be things that would probably what they call it? They call it, may probably blindside you. And I agree with Kerry. Well said, Kerry. Congratulations for bringing in that point. It's always good to visit the person's family, to visit the person's country, just to get a flair of how, where that person grew up. Okay, I'm in the process of starting a matchmaking business along with Andrina, who has divine introduction, and what you're saying there goes a long way. In fact, I'd like to start what we call a group coaching singles series, where everybody in the group contribute to the advancement of everybody else, and we network in a way that we help each other gain what we are trying. The common end is to get married and have a family. But I'll tell you more about that. Okay, are you still with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Yep, good. Let's round up. We've been chatting a lot, and we're going to round up by looking at how to avoid jerks. How to avoid jerks. I've spoken at length about a number of different ways. And one of the things I would like to say here is that you should know what you want. Know what you want. And you and I have spoken a lot about this, Sandra.
Yes.
You should know your deal. Yeah, I was just going to say you should know your deal breakers. What are the things
Yes.
you would never ever put up with in your relationships? Now, in your relationship, in any relationship, I want, in other words, you have to have standards. You know that there are some things for us Christians, the Bible says you shouldn't get involved with someone who's an atheist, someone who's not a Christian. Those of you who are in the chat room, what are some of the deal breakers that you have? One of my deal breaker, before I got married, one of the many deal, not many, few deal breakers I had was that I would never get married to a woman who smoked. It's just, it doesn't matter how pretty they are, how wonderful they are, how you know how successful they are. The minute a woman pipes up and pulls out a
Pipes
cigarette,
up. Okay.
I said pipes up, no pun intended, or pulls out a cigarette, no, I'm not going there. So that's one of my deal breakers. How about you guys in the chat room? What are some of your deal breakers? Do you have any deal breakers? What would be a deal breaker for you, Sandra?
Deal breaker. Hmm. Hmm.
Do you
What's
have
one of my?
any?
I do actually. I do have some deal breakers. Um, I think as I evolve, I reduce the list somewhat, and it's not
Well, it shouldn't be too
in the
long.
way before. I don't know. I don't have as many, but a big one is the smoking and no smoking. Um,
Mhm.
so no abusive substances. um, deal breaker may
That's a good one.
be
That's a good one. That you shouldn't get involved with someone who has an addiction, because
yes.
that addiction is their wife or husband. That addiction will
Mm,
take priority over you. So don't get
yes.
involved with people who have addictions. So yeah, go on.
Addictions. Anybody who is dishonest.
Ooh, liars, liars.
Yeah, lying. If I find out you're lying, that's I'm done. I'm
You get the
done. I'm
boots.
done.
You
You're
get the boots.
gone. You're gone. You are gone.
By the way, while you're saying that, we have found that it is one of the requirement, which brings us to another issue. So have your deal breakers. They shouldn't be too long. You shouldn't have 10,
No,
20 deal breakers. Nobody will,
no.
you won't get anyone. Have some core deal breakers, but also have what we call requirements. What are some of the things that you must have in a relationship for you to be happy, for you to feel esteemed, for you to feel secure, for you to feel good? What are some of the core things that you must have in that relationship? And I think you've just mentioned one, um, a
Yeah,
need. There is a need that particularly women have for transparency, for honesty, for a person to be above board. And that's a big
yeah.
one, a big one.
hmm Um, yeah. I think that's a big one for me. Um, hmm. I don't really date short men.
Oh, man.
I know. I don't know that but I think it more and more becomes a deal breaker. So I have to admit that there's some things that really don't work for me, and that may be, that no, that one just doesn't work. I don't want to explain it or whatever, but I have to say, is one of those things that I go like, no, 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 no. Um,
Well,
I
a deal
like
breaker is a
height.
deal breaker. It's like
Yeah, I
some
it's
people
a
don't.
personal.
Yeah, that's personal. There's some personal deal breakers. Some people don't date outside their ethnicity. Some
Yeah, I
people.
don't date on the wild side either. But people tell me that probably is because I'm not open enough to
Mm,
other relationships. I just have to say I like it. I like the reflection of myself, and I
okay.
love the mirroring of myself, and that's where I stick. But I know other people will date in other arenas, and I don't have no problem with that. But personally, I kind of like to I like the mirror of myself. That's the best way I can put it.
Okay, that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
that if it's a deal breaker, it's a deal breaker. Some people just don't go for anyone else outside their culture, outside their ethnic group. So
No, ethnic group is different. I've dated Americans and other people from other ethnic groups. Africans. I have no problem. I think my thing is more,
race.
um, yeah, it's a race thing. I like to, and that's just a real
You're not
personal
racist.
preference. It's a personal
Okay.
preference. So if I could, I don't know if I would ever meet somebody who would tempt me to want to go on the other side and check it out. But so far, I just have to say I do prefer my reflection, but that doesn't mean that I would say to anybody else that should be for them. I just think that's having come this far in my life, I realized that I'm not attracted very much to people who aren't that reflection. Although I'm always talking to people who are not the reflection too. I have good relationships with those races. So it's not about it's not I'm anti any other race. It's just I do have a preference. So I
Okay.
like to stick with that preference. And I think that's the thing with dating and relationships. You have choices, and no one should say that your choice is there's anything wrong with your choice, and you don't have to make a choice that is about race just because that's all you've ever done. You can
Mm.
actually be flexible about stuff. But
Well, can I
own it as
say,
well if that's your preference. Sorry.
Sandra,
Yes.
that this that doesn't sound too much like a deal breaker. It sounds
Nah.
more like an option. If
Yes.
you, it's a preference. You would prefer
A
this, but
choice. Yes.
if it doesn't work out and you get someone else with all the qualities that you need, then you probably would make an option. So there are three things I tell people that they need to be aware of. They need to know what their deal breakers are. So what are the things that you must not have in a relationship?
Right, there
Then you
must
need
be
to know what.
no violence in the relationship.
Okay,
That's a deal
violence.
breaker. No
So
violence.
you don't want someone who has anger management issues.
No.
Um, okay, then you need to know what are the things you must have, and that's
Oh,
we don't have enough
lots of
time to get into.
affection. Oh, we can do a
Okay, some
few.
people. Okay, go on.
So I can give you a
Affection.
few. There must be
Give
love,
me
there
give me
must be
three.
affection. Okay,
Yep, we're
so
running out of time.
I'm a big on being an Aquarian and a love baby, Valentine's baby. There's got to be love. There's got to be affection. So I like people who are tactile, hand holding, that kind of stuff is
Okay,
important.
so can I just
Demonstrations of
encapsulate what you're
affection.
can I just say that there are people who need to have physical touch,
Mm-hmm.
physical demonstration of affection, and if they don't get it, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to
Mm-hmm.
feel esteem. They're going to be miserable, frustrated, and you're going to have, just an angry person. An angry man is a hungry man is an angry man because they'll be hungry for that. So you need to be aware of what it is that you
Okay.
must have in your relationship, and that's cool. Anything else? Oh, I don't know if I've lost you. Um, but I'm
Can you
going to
hear
go
me?
on. Yeah, I'm now hearing you. I
Okay.
didn't hear what you last said though.
Okay, no, all I was saying was love affection is important. Is an important thing. I know there's some people that are not, tactile, would not
Mhm.
don't like to show affection, especially publicly. Some of our people would be a bit like, no, I'm not doing that. Well, no, then you're not the person for me.
Okay.
So that's why I say love
I think
affection.
you keep chopping in and out.
One of my I for me to.
Okay, so hold on. Thanks. I think I've lost you. Okay. While we try to get Sandra back, there's for some reason we've lost her over the airwaves. I'd just like to say a couple of other things that you need to be aware of when you want to avoid jerks. And I'm suggesting that you ask yourself a couple of questions.
That
Okay, Sandra, you're back. You
still
actually
here?
you're still there, are you? For some reason or the other, we are not hearing you, Sandra.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you now, but we lost a lot of what you've said.
Yeah, I lost a bit of
Yeah.
you too. I was just saying love and affection is really important. Yeah.
Yes, we got that.
Okay, that was it.
Okay. You need to know what your emotional needs are, which is what we have been hammering out just a while ago. What is it that you need to make you happy? Sandra spoke about affection. Some people like to be heard, like to hear other people telling them how they feel about them. Some people simply like the presence of the person. And they're talking about presence. People like being given gifts and presents. If you're one of those people, if you're aware of that, and somebody isn't delivering on that level that is so vital to you, it's going to be a recipe for disaster if you get in a relationship with that person. Okay, rounding up, I just like to say, whenever you're getting in a relationship or someone is trying to knock at your heart's door, ask yourself a couple of questions. Would you like to become like this person? Would you like your children to be like them? Because believe it or not, if you birds of a feather flock together, and if you associate with that person long enough, his or her behavior will rub off on you. I don't have enough time to go into the biology of it. However, in your brain there is something that's called mirror neurons that actually mirror what other people do. And if you stay with that person long enough, you become like them. So ask yourself your question: would I really like to become like this person or that person? Would I like to have children who are like them? And depending on your answer, you could decide quickly whether or not that person is good for you or if he or she is jerkish. And finally, what does the Bible say about your relationship? What are other people saying about the relationship? What is the Holy Spirit telling you about the relationship? So these are different ways you can use to avoid having a jerk in your life, despite your attraction for them, despite your emotions for them. Because if you override your intellect, your intelligence, by going along with your feelings of love, of passion, you would find that you may get into a place in your life where your life would be absolutely destroyed. I pray God that He would grant you the Holy Spirit, a discerning spirit. Ask God to give you the discerning spirit to sift, to filter, to know whether or not the spirit that is in that person aligns with the spirit that is in you. And don't for a moment think that simply because they are in church that they will not damage you. The Bible says you must test the spirits, try the spirits, hold fast to that which is good. And I am praying that God would lead you, He will guide you to avoid jerks, to avoid the counterfeits, because Jesus says that grievous wolves will come up amongst you. Paul warns against wolves in sheep clothing, and there are romantic wolves out there ready to devour your heart. Sandra, it was good having you with us, and we are looking
Thank
forward to
you.
having you next week. Those of
Yes.
you who have contributed to the chat room, we are delighted. Loris, it was good. I keep calling you Kerry. I don't know where that name came from. Maybe it was just auto-generated when you typed a message in. Drina, it was equally good to have you with us and all the other people in the chat room. Next week, same time, same place, we will be discussing the topic biblical dating in a modern world, how you can date biblically in this modern world. Well, before we go, I think we should offer a word of prayer, and I'll be on I'll go on my way, and we will be in touch. Remember to go to our website and sign in. It's God Wants You Married. On the right hand side there is a banner that you could click. You could fill the form in, just your name and email, and we will send you regular updates on this Christian dating series. Okay, quick word of prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for this wonderful opportunity that we've had to broadcast live to people far and wide on this island. But this topic is such a vital topic because the devil is like a roaring lion. He seeks to destroy. You are in the matchmaking business, but the devil is also in the matchmaking business too. And it would be just fun for him to send someone in our lives to just damage our lives. But God, you know the hearts and intentions of everyone. So give us the discerning spirit that we need to make right decisions as to who we should let into our soul and our minds, and who we should couple up with, so that instead of them damaging, distrust, they could we could both contribute to each other's growth and development like you intended it in the original when you originally set up marriages. In Jesus' name, amen. It was fun being with you. Stay strong, stay
Thank you,
blessed, and
Hilton.
remember, God wants you married. Yes, Sandra, what did you say?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you.
guys. Good night.
Okay, good night. Bye.